Welcome back, everyone. Today is the day that we're doing our top 10 games of 2022.
Woo!
Jeremy is visiting. All four of us are here. We had to take this opportunity to put this list together and get it out before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive right into it, but we're going to do a little something first. Because we were talking about, we haven't shared with each other all the games that are on our lists.
Yeah.
Although some of us know each other well enough to know what's coming.
But some of us are very secretive with our lists
Yes.
and won't tell
Some
the
of
others.
us are incredibly
put it?
secretive.
I can guess a couple that are going to be on Jeremy's list.
I think it's going to be interesting because, of course, we know each other really well.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw our top 50. We got to know a lot about each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting. Plus, I've been watching what other people have been covering for the channel. There's a little catch to that.
Oh,
And,
you
know,
actually watch the channel?
I do.
He's doing
Watch
his
our
research.
videos, folks. Actually watch our videos. So it's just gonna be really interesting. I like that. I like to have this kind of like what's gonna happen, who's gonna say what. You know, it's important to me. It's fun.
Yeah, so to make that a little bit more interesting, we've all decided to look at our lists. Don't look at my list, anybody. And decide how many is on our list that is not on anyone else's list.
Ooh, that's unique.
Yeah, so these are the number of titles that are on our list that we think are not going to show up anywhere else, just on our list. I'll start. I feel fairly confident that I have 3. And I'm going to go so far as to say, I don't think it's going to be less. I don't think it's going to be more. I think I have exactly 3 that's not going to be on anyone else's list.
That's interesting because I feel like I have 3 too. Because but I think you and I are going to have the most crossover.
You know, it'd be funny if we have just those 3.
That's what we have in common. Because I have some games in here that I know that I loved that I know for a fact did not like work for you guys because you've all played them.
Sure.
So I think 3 for me as well. But I think if I'm gonna have the most crossover, I think with you.
I would agree. I think we'll have the most
see.
Yeah,
crossover.
probably, because I feel like I have a lot more that are unique. Like
These
I
are the
think,
2 wild cards.
I think I have
We
6.
got wild cards.
6
that are
out of 10 unique
6 out of 10.
games.
I don't think you guys have on your list.
None of them are
Just
nerds,
fine.
by the way, everybody.
None of them are
I don't
nerds.
know. I haven't seen the list. Maybe.
It's the 2022 edition of
What about
Nerds.
you? How many
I'm
uniques?
feeling less confident now. I'm going down to 5.
5? Oh,
Five.
am I winning?
No,
Less
you
confident
know what?
now.
I buy it because I know you play a lot of games
Yeah.
that I just don't play. Like games that I might love,
Yeah.
but I don't have the time to invest in.
That's
so
true.
But I also, the thing is like when you people watch my list, it's going to be a little bit shocking because you're like, don't you love these games? I have my solo cooperative video that I do every year. It's separate, and I'm keeping those games separate instead of overlapping a little bit like I've done in previous years. So stay tuned for that video close to the end of the year.
Yeah, that's Jeremy's little trick. He does multiple lists,
Yeah,
so he doesn't have to pick his favorite child.
yeah. Well, speaking of
the way I
that,
squeeze in a lot of games.
His top 10 is really a top 40.
Yeah.
I know we've said this a lot in the past. We say this, I feel like, every single year, but this year particularly, with so many games that were expected in 2020, 2021, so many games that got pushed back, it felt like we just had a ton of new releases this year.
I would have said
So-
you said that last year. Maybe you had.
Yeah.
But this year actually was the pandemic games.
Right.
That were big campaign games that launched into like late 2019, 2020, and they all delivered at once. I think last year it was like a whole bunch of campaigns that were early in the pandemic. They delivered in January.
Yeah.
So some of the games are still overlapping from this year to last year. So you'll see a lot of those. I mean, Ark Nova came out last year. It's going to be on some people's lists this year. It may or not be on our list this year as well. So you just don't know. You know, like that's the thing. It's
the
been
thing.
a lot.
There were a couple games that we had access to that were on my last year's list. I didn't want to duplicate, but like Ark Nova is a great example.
Yeah.
So we'll see if those come up.
We'll explain all of our decisions a little bit, as well as tell you a little bit about the games. And with no further ado, we're going to kick things off.
Let's
we're going to
do
be
it.
going this way down the road,
right.
starting with Ryan and ending with Jeremy.
My number 10 is Marvel Dice Throne.
Oh.
This
Oh,
shouldn't
it
be
did
a
make
huge
your list,
surprise.
huh?
It did make my list. When I was looking at my list, and we'll maybe talk a little bit about this, I chose games that gave me some really fun moments.
Okay.
Games that I played multiple times, that I didn't get tired of, that I'm dying to play again. We play Marvel Dice Throne a lot. I have a buddy that when we're playing games, we used to only play Watergate together, and now sometimes we'll play Watergate, and then we'll play Marvel Dice Throne and choose some of our favorite characters to play against each other because Dice Throne is a fun game. And
It's a
Yeah.
great
it
game.
seems tailor-made for Marvel because you have these unique characters that have these unique powers, unique dice, unique tokens, unique abilities, cards, all of that stuff really fits in well with the Marvel theme, and you really do feel like a superhero when you're playing. And I gotta say, like, hats off to Manny who did the artwork for
Yeah.
this game because his interpretation of these Marvel characters is so good that I wish Marvel would put him in charge of like doing a comic series with this artwork because it's phenomenal. And again, the packaging, just everything that you'd expect from Dice Throne is there, and it all feels very premium.
Yeah, if you like Dice Throne and you like Marvel, there's no way
it's
you
a
don't
no-brainer.
have this in your collection.
I
It's a good
put
one.
on makeup to play this game.
Whoa, like cosplay.
I was like literally Black Widow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It
I
was-
thought you'd be more of a Miles Morales. I know you
Yeah.
like Miles Morales, right?
No, I wanted to go completely out of character. So
Nice.
I went all in. I played in a tournament against Manny, and
That's
I
funny.
showed up as
As Black Widow.
So
I hope there's photos of this.
it was a video. It was a tourney. We did a tourney on Board Game Spotlights. It was a tournament
That's so
for the launch.
funny.
Yeah, it was great.
Well, there's no photos of my number 10 of me playing it anyway.
Oh, I was gonna say-
except there is a whole live stream of us playing.
What? Okay.
And it is Paint the Roses. This is a cooperative deduction game. This is an interesting one because we played this years ago in prototype form, and then it went to
Truly a family
Kickstarter
game.
and finally delivered this year in a beautiful format. But the deluxe version is just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And this is a lot like Shipwreck Arcana, if you've ever played that. It's a cooperative deduction game that works a really interesting way. It's the kind of thing that I can bring out with family.
Yeah.
And everyone can get a little bit of that taste of deduction. And also, sort of like new people who haven't played cooperative games, it's fun to bring a deduction game like that to them as well, because you don't see that often
No,
very much.
not as
I mean, you
much.
can play some of them cooperatively, but this one was one of the first that I played that I really, really enjoyed. So,
yeah, I like Paint the Roses too. It didn't make my list, so this
I'm
can stay unique.
spoiler-
for
It
you,
didn't.
but-
Spoiler alert, but I was surprised to learn that when I mentioned this
I know
earlier.
because I
that
love deduction games.
I
You
did
might
too. It
feel a
didn't.
few
It
of
didn't
those.
quite make.
there may
my
be
list
some
either,
more
but-
deduction games to
Maybe.
come.
But not for my number 10. My number 10 is Wonderland's War.
Ah.
So I really enjoyed this
Also,
one.
Alice in Wonderland themed.
Yeah, also Alice in Wonderland theme, so went along with the theme, and it was very thematic. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful board and beautiful components, but I really like the bag building. I'm not big on area control.
No.
But I
You are
really,
not.
I'm not at all. But I really found it exciting in this game. Like, I thought added with the bag building and the kind of like secret objectives and things you were doing, I was finding it really engaging and like not just what I was doing, but also like what other people on the table were doing and like if I was going to bet on things or what was going on with other parts of it. So that made my list, number 10.
It's a good game.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a
fun game.
fantastic game, and I took it off my list like last.
Oh!
Yeah, Jeremy does some last minute shenanigans every time we get together like this. We're sitting here, the camera's rolling. He's like, "Oh, hold on." He goes,
It's
gets
a
the
great
pencil.
game. I'll just tell you about this game that I put on it in place of it,
Okay.
and I just really enjoyed it. It was like one of my lunchtime games that I played all year, and it's called Trekking Through History. It's
Oh, yeah.
It's by Underdog Games. It's like I played it. I bought it on a whim. I just walked in. And I was like, oh, I'll try it out, and man, it's such a high quality game. First of all, it's a family game. You're just basically taking cards that have different time treks. You're going through three different periods, and all you're doing is just taking the cards and trying to maintain an order from past to present, and then kind of collecting those and making those sets. I don't know what it is about this game. Like I had so much fun just every time just playing. It's very relaxing. You can play it in a lunchtime. You can play it with your family. I played it at a convention for the first time I bought it. I played it at a convention, and I just came away with I'm like, this is a really impressive, just really good normal game. And when I've been thinking about my top 10 this year, it's about like moments. And playing that with my friend at work, I never got tired of playing the game. Like we played it for about a week. Like we played it like 3-4
Wow.
times in a week, and he was feeling it. I was feeling it, and I play a lot of games, so I'd be like, oh boy, next time we need to play something different. No, I enjoyed playing the game. So
Nice.
I think it was memorable, and I think it's worth talking about, and I really just enjoyed it.
Cool.
It
Yeah, we
belongs in
played
my
that
top 10.
here. A few of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah,
Did
I
you
haven't
play
played
it?
it.
Oh,
No.
you haven't played it with me? Yeah,
Oh, it was good.
that is a fun
Yeah.
little game, and it is. It's like one of those light little games. It's just like fun.
Yeah, I just had
Light,
fun.
but it's challenging.
Yep.
Number 9, Ryan. That's where we're at.
All right, well, number 9 for me is Wonderland's War.
There you
So
go.
it did make
Wow.
multiple lists. I knew it would because this is just a really solid game. To kind of build off of what you said, I actually had the privilege, I guess, of seeing this game in multiple stages over the course of
Oh,
its
that's
life.
right. That is true.
I put a very early prototype that ended up being nothing like the final version of the game. And to get to see this game iterate over the years is just a pretty... It was cool to see kind of how that works behind closed doors.
Sure.
And I can say, after playing all those versions, that what they came up with was like the best of all of it.
Yeah.
Like they
good.
really
That's
did a great job taking what worked from all the different iterations and making a game that feels like just a bunch of different random mechanics. You have that
Sure.
like rondelle movement almost. You have the bag building, the area control you mentioned. You have miniatures in there. Like there's so much going on, but it does come together really well. And this was a lesson that I've been learning over the years. That bag building is just fun.
Yeah.
It's
It
just
is,
fun
yeah.
to pull things out of a bag and get excited and see what you've gotten. Like that satisfying moment of like getting to tailor that bag.
It's the reveal, baby.
It is the reveal. It's all about that reveal, and you're like, oh yeah, I need that 8, and you're whatever, you draw it. And the fact that they tied all the chips to like different Wonderland
Yeah.
characters,
Yeah.
they really did their homework when it came to the theme as well. And it just
Yes.
is one of those games that shines.
Yeah. That was an unexpected surprise for me because I'm not an area control person, but I like back building. So I was like, okay, so this is going to be an interesting combo. But I just found that having just I love when games have everything baked in already,
Yeah.
and I don't have to wait for like 5 expansions.
Sure.
There was enough variety that I have in my games so I can go like, okay, this is going to be fun and interesting every time.
Yeah.
It's just such a high quality product. I've had really good time. I feel like I didn't play that game enough.
Yeah.
I wanna
And it
play
has
it more,
what Brian loves
you know?
most, asymmetric player powers, right?
It definitely
Yeah,
has.
the player
powers.
Yes. I don't know if it's going to be on anyone else's list, but yeah, I do love the asymmetric powers in that game.
I mean, it was on her list.
Well, I mean,
He's like, if I'm going to get to talk to it again.
right. I got to save something.
So my number 9 is something I just finally recently played within the last couple months, and I really enjoy it. That's why it's made my list. It is Massive Darkness 2.
oh, wow.
And this is a game, much like Death May Die, that wouldn't typically be the kind of game that's in my wheelhouse or on my lists, but similar to Death May Die, but not just like it at all, is a player progression that happens super, super fast.
Yes.
So you can play one scenario of this. You don't have to play multiple scenarios, and you can level up like a couple times. It's also a massive loot grab. So if you've ever played video games like Diablo or
Yes.
games like that where you're just like killing bunches of stuff and getting tons of loot
Yes.
and leveling up, that is this game for sure. I haven't even tapped into the campaign. I did buy the whole thing
Yeah.
recently after the fact. I didn't back it, but I went to our local store who had some full pledges
Oh, nice.
and bought the whole thing after I'd played it. So will I get through all that content?
No.
Maybe
Probably not.
maybe not. Let's be honest, probably not. But I liked the game experience enough to put it on my list at number
I
9.
will tell you, stay tuned for my solo co-op list because it will be on there. I'll just tell you that. This game is absolutely amazing. Like, it is so fun. The progression is progression in that game happens so fast that it gives you this good feedback loop.
It's crazy fast.
It's crazy fast, but also that every character is its own mini game.
Yes.
Which is what makes that part cool. So it's not like you're just chucking dice and whatever. Doing things in that game are just feels so different from character to character. There's like a push your luck character, archer.
Yeah, the archer.
There's like a wizard. You're kind of like manipulating a board and kind of paying attention where things are in an arc. Like there's different games going on. It just makes it more interesting.
Yeah, it takes variable
Yeah.
player powers
Yeah.
up here
Yeah,
because
the
you
player
have
powers
your
are up
own
there.
set of components, and it's like some player's turn is nothing like your turn because they're doing something
Right.
completely different to do what you do in the game.
You're killing me with the FOMO.
I know.
No,
He's-
but I'm serious.
hasn't
Like you
played it
have
yet.
to
I haven't played it yet.
You have to play this game with us.
I
Like,
haven't
it's
played it
so
either,
fun, man.
but-
I
I don't know
love
if
But
you're
no,
gonna
but
be-
if you play, I think these set of command games like this one, Cthulhu Death May Die, and the newest Zombicide, they're very attractive. They're very hard to go like, these are all right. Like they're very good chuck and dice games, but that one specifically, Massive Darkness, is definitely one I highly recommend above all of them.
Yeah.
Like,
The original was so good. So
Yeah.
yes, I would love to play the second one.
I do
So
not
that-
agree with you. The original was not good, but this one is
I
great.
liked the
This
first
one is great.
The original one was not on my
Yeah.
list,
Well,
but
mine-
this one was.
My number 9 is probably nothing like Massive Darkness.
No?
It is Sky Mines.
you go.
Oh, yeah.
Sky Mines is like a re-theme of Mombasa.
Yep.
And it is like a card management type of game where you're going up multiple tracks. It's very, very tight. It's very
It
much an
is.
efficiency puzzle, but I love that. I love the action selection, and you have three different spaces where you can be putting down your cards, and it has an effect on which cards you can take later and when you can take certain actions. And I love that puzzle of just like, you're not thinking about what you're doing now. You're thinking about what you're doing now and next turn beyond that. And if you haven't planned all that out, you're really going to hurt yourself. And then the timing makes a huge difference because, like, if I place this first in a round, I might get a bonus if I can do it before David does it. But you also are like, but also I want to do this first. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, plus it has what appears at first glance like an area control thing going on, but it's not. It's like these
Yeah,
four
it's not as
different
much.
sort of companies that everyone's manipulating, and then you're basically investing in those companies. So you
Yeah.
want presence for a lot of them, but everyone's doing that. So you could just buy the stock or have investment
Yes.
in one
Yes.
and let everyone else do the work and go, okay, I'm fine with this.
It does feel a little area control.
It does.
It looks that way more than it feels it, though. I
Sure.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you can get that throughout the game, and you can like go hard in one and then be like, just kidding, this is not working. I'm going to go into another
Yeah.
one later in the game, and like David said, just kind of piggyback off of somebody else's what they've already put into it, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I like that too. It didn't make she crushed me when we played. I mean, not that that's unusual.
No, this was, and the new theme they have was brilliant.
Yeah, it was
Yes.
cool.
It's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
good to get away from that Mombasa. But for those watching who are like, oh, I've already owned Mombasa, I haven't gotten to play it, but did you play the Asteroid Mine side of the
No,
map? Because
I
that's the
didn't.
part I really want to play, because that looks so different.
Yeah, there's two sides of the map, and you can actually play kind of a mini campaign where you play one, then you go to the moon or asteroid, and then you come back. So you
Oh,
play like
that's
3
cool.
games in a row or something like that.
That's interesting.
Fister stuff is like hit or miss, but the ones that hit are so high
I
on my list.
know,
Like,
it's
they're
so good.
so high on my list. So I don't know. I'll check it out down the line. I think I'm still interested enough to check it out. Number 9 for me is, I'll call it the lunchtime game of the year. I'm back into my list with all these lunchtime games. But this one here, I saw it on your stream with Ryan, and I was like,
Oh,
I
I
want
know.
that game
I guess-
immediately. I was like, I watched 2
You know
rounds,
it?
and I was like, I
I'm gonna
want this
guess.
now. Beer and bread.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I was like, I want this now. I sought it out at SM, bought it right away, and brought it home, and we played that one for like a straight week. We were like, this is awesome. This game's great. It's, hand management. Your hand can create resources. You got resources that you can grab. And you're making beer and bread cards, and you're trying to collect more of one than the other because the lower one is your score. But it's got the multi-use cards. You
Yes.
can also put them under to get different abilities and scoring. It's different. It's just such a pleasing game, and all this happens in 30 minutes. Like
It's very
I mean,
short.
all this stuff: dry season, wet season, storing things, moving them here, gaining power, scoring. It all happens in 30 minutes. It
Yep.
feels like a Euro game.
Feels very much like a Euro.
Yeah, it
Well,
feels
yeah.
very much like a Euro game. And what you do with those cards, you just can't believe what's going on with those cards. You're like, wow, there's a lot going on
It's,
here.
Yeah.
it's no surprise that it's from Scott Alms.
Yeah.
Because it feels like a tiny epic
Yeah.
sort of experience. There's a lot of Euro-y goodness in that game
Yeah.
in a nice little package.
Also, don't forget, I mentioned it's a 2-player game.
Yes.
It's a
So if,
Yeah.
two-player
it,
game.
if it's
I love that.
right in that wheelhouse, this is from Capstone, and this feels like Watergate,
Yeah.
Yes.
Beer and Bread. Like just
Yeah.
these
Yes.
simple, like
Yes.
30 to 45 minute 2-player games. I love them. I
Yeah.
want more of these.
This
Yeah.
one was very memorable. It just is memorable. We had to play it. Like, I had a meeting, and it was like literally at 12, and I was like, "Can we play this?" And we got it done in 25 minutes.
Nice.
And
That's
we
funny.
Just had a great time playing that game. We were just addicted to it, and I enjoy that one.
Cool.
All right, number 7.
Number
Eight.
8.
8. Number 8.
We can skip your 8 if you want.
Number 8 for me is Cat in the Box. This is a
wow. Yeah.
trick-taking game with a crazy twist. This is one of those games that you play this game and you think, how did nobody ever come up with this idea
Yes.
that all the cards in your hand are all just black? They're all just colorless,
Colorless.
effectively.
Colorless, yeah.
And you don't claim a color until you play it. But what makes this game really shine is that board in the center, where when you claim a particular number in color, you're putting your token on that board so that no one else can claim to have that same colored number card. And that alone is very unique. But then when you combine it with the idea that you can get points by creating those chains out there, by wanting them all to touch, you start to, come up with these new strategies where it's like, maybe I don't want to win all the tricks because you might have, you have to bet how many you're going to win. You can get a lot of points by taking a lot of tricks, or you can get a lot of points by setting up that board. Rarely can you do both. So you kind of have to make that decision as you play. It's very challenging to
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of risk.
there's a lot of
management.
risk management.
Yeah.
Thank you. You can get to these paradox situations that
I
just
know.
are always like very high in excitement. Even if you're the one that causes the paradox,
Right.
you just have these moments where you're just like, oh no,
I
the
of-
round suddenly is over.
Yeah.
I often put myself into the paradox situation because the risk management is like what I like doing in that game is I like saying, I'm out of yellow. Oh yeah, I'm out of blue.
Yeah.
If because it's your choice. You can say, oh, I'm out of that suit. I'm going to use trump, which
Yeah.
is always red. But if you do that too much,
You
you are
have
going
nothing else
burning
to
yourself.
play.
you have no cards to play
It
because
looks
it comes
dumb.
around to you and you're like, oh, I guess I'm paradoxing. That is not good to
Yes.
do.
I've got nothing left. I have 6 cards in my hand, but no suits.
But it is fun because it puts everyone a little bit on tilt at
Yes.
the table when you do
Yes.
that. You're like, oh. Yeah.
David just trumping everything.
You're always looking at the person to your left being like, are you going to play something that's going to mess me up, or am I still going to be able to play my card?
Yeah.
Right, there's that feeling when you have that 1 in the 7 left, and you're like, please
No
don't
one plays
cover 1
7,
or
no one
7.
plays 7.
Right.
Well, my number 8 has been mentioned already. It is Wonderland's
I knew it was
War.
going to come back.
I will just add this one thing. I said this when we first played it, not the prototype you played a long time
The
ago.
version you played.
When we played it in its close to final form, I said it felt to me like Quacks of Quedlinburg
Yep.
and some sort of Eric Lang game like
Yeah.
Blood Rage or Rising Sun had a baby, because it felt like they tried to make an area control game but driven by really fun mechanics.
Yeah.
And I think that's the reason why this game is on my list and none of those area control games in the past weren't, because it's just fun.
It is.
Like pulling the chips out of the bag, the theme is fun, the art is great. There's another Manny game.
Oh, yeah.
We're gonna have Manny art all over the place in our top 10 here. But yeah, Wonderland's War is a really good game, and like you said, it doesn't get to the table enough. And it's probably gonna be said for a lot of the games we talk about because we play so many. But that is one, when I was thinking about it, I was like, I had to look through my house to find where it was because I want to play it again.
Yeah, but that is one. Again, you mentioned Manny's art. Manny has this fantastic art style. The variable characters all have that great art style. You can draw people in, I think, just by setting that game up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It looks so
Like,
good.
that's all you got to
Beautiful
do.
game.
People will sit
What's
down.
going on
and
over
you-
here? Huh? What's going on?
You see the minis. You
Looking
see the
for some
poker
gamers?
chips.
That's fun.
All right, my number 8 has not been mentioned yet, and I don't think it'll be mentioned again.
Oh, this
Oh,
is
it's one of the ones.
It's one of the ones, and that's Break the Cube. So we just recently played this game. It's
We
one of
did.
the newest games by Yellow Games, and it is a deduction game. So it's a very small, short deduction game where you're basically creating a little code with 3-dimensional blocks. So like think Tetris, but 3-dimensional. And I create a little cube code, and then Jeremy's trying to guess mine, and I'm trying to guess David's, and we're doing it really simply going around the table. But what I really enjoy about it is that it's so fast.
It is super fast.
It's super quick. It's super easy to catch on to, and you can play it with multiple players. But I think it would really shine as like a filler game, right? Like as an in-between game, or even just for people who are like not into games a lot of times, but you want it to kind of do a little bit of a gateway. I think it has a perfect little spot right there, and I haven't found another deduction game that I think I could so easily get to the table as this.
Yeah, we said that we did a video on it, and it is easily the fastest deduction game I've ever played in my life. And it's fun. You know, it has you doing some unique things. I don't know if you mentioned this, but all that is happening behind player shields,
Yes.
obviously, because no one can see what you have. But it is a really good tactile game, and it's in a nice little box. I don't know how much it is, but it can't be much.
No, I
So
don't
it's
think
got
it's
to be a
very
nice
expensive. Yeah.
entry-level sort of game. But yeah, cool.
So my number 8, I haven't played it in a while, but I imported it a long time ago, and then I finally, I'm so happy people are finally going to get a chance to play it. It is called Millefiori.
Oh,
Now,
yeah,
I found out
yeah,
because I found out about this game because of Tom Vassell, and he got me so excited about this game. I was like, I'm going to import it today. And
was that your impression of Tom?
Yeah. Sorry, Tom. Sorry.
You got practice.
Import it today.
Oh,
It's a little bit better. A little bit better, didn't it? You got better. All right. Anyway.
If you had a hat, I'd say, whoa, Tom's here.
That was my little hat. I'm sorry.
We're losing it, everybody.
Anyway, Millefiori. It's a Reiner Knizia game. I could say it's an upper tier Knizia, but I don't even know what that means at this point because he's designed 700 games. But this game, even though I do not care about the theme at all, I don't even know what Millefiori means, but I continue to love abstracts, and I'm always looking for that next abstract game. And this game has a whole bunch of they're not mini games, but they have different ways that they can score.
They
feels
feel
that
like
way.
mini
Yeah,
games. Yeah.
they're all different. There's different ways that they can score in different sections, and it's just simplicity.
Yes,
can
it's
be
very
fun,
simple.
right? And simplicity, and the thing is, it keeps you interested in what's going on in every part of the board each time you play the game, no matter who you're playing with. So, I just found that one memorable. I'm glad that I imported it and it cost me a lot of money, but I actually got my money's worth.
Yeah.
And that's one of those things that makes it memorable. But I really enjoy Mille Fiori.
And one of the main mechanics too is the card drafting,
Yeah.
right? So you have a little bit of player interaction.
By the way,
too.
I just failed to mention that it has card drafting, but that's fine. Yeah, you have card drafting that turns into actions that you take on different spots, different areas of the board, and there's different majorities and different ways you score.
Yes.
Also can be lightning fast, especially
Yeah.
at 2 players.
Yes.
Oh, so fast.
And there's a 2-player variant that
Mm-hmm.
we learned if
Yeah.
you've watched any of the content on our channel that is very good, and it goes crazy fast if
Yeah.
both
So,
players
very
have
You gotta
played
score a
before.
lot of points. This game is the game. It
can be swinging in a fun
It can
way.
be really swinging in a
Oh,
fun
yeah.
way. Yeah,
Oh,
very
yeah.
very swingy. Yeah.
So now
All
it's
right,
number
now it's
7.
actually number
Now
7,
it's
and
number 7.
This is one of mine that I wasn't sure would be on anybody else's list, and that is
Ooh.
Rear Window from Funko Games, which is
Ah.
quite the surprise for me that this ended up being not only a
That's
game
fine.
that I enjoyed, but that I enjoyed enough to be on the top 10 because, I mean, I trust Prospero Hall and Funko. They've made some really great IP games, but sometimes you see a game like Rear Window, like what a strange game or a strange movie to make a game about, but it works for me, and I consider this like a Mysterium killer.
Yeah.
I will never play Mysterium again after playing Rear
Wow,
Window
you have
because
banished it.
I enjoy what Rear Window's doing so much. You're literally players are like looking out into an apartment complex and looking into the windows, and the director is putting cards out, these abstract cards with pictures and people and colors and all this different stuff. So kind of like Mysterium, but I find them a little easier to parse. They're not quite as
more
abstract.
grounded,
A little,
yeah.
a little more grounded. And you're trying to tell them who's in each apartment building and what they're doing, like what their job is or their hobby. And it's so funny because there's this deduction element. So
Yes.
you're watching as everyone is like completely off base, but you get 4 days. They get to see it over 4 days. So they're completely off base by day 1. Day 2, maybe they're homing in. Day 3, maybe. But then by day 4, you see everyone looking back and using that deduction and saying, well, if these 3 are correct and these 2 over here were correct, then these, and then they just get it. And then you're like, oh my gosh, that was a miracle that it all came together. But it gives you variable player powers to do that. It gives you a lot of deduction elements. It still gives you that abstract art that you like in Mysterium, but it feels like you have more control over the game.
And it's cooperative.
And
for the most
it
part.
is, for the most part,
the most part.
cooperative. There are advanced difficulty modes, including one that's not cooperative, where there's a murderer in the building. So
and you
it's-
don't know if that's going to be the deal
Right.
or not, which is kind of cool.
And so there's a lot of different difficulty modes. It's a lot of fun, and this is one that I just find myself playing over and over and over again
Yeah.
because it has that. It always ends with that great moment where like you got it, like maybe on turn 3 or turn 4. Sometimes you don't, but like when you do, it just feels so good that they like got what you were laying down.
That's a solid addition to a top 10.
yeah. I mean,
and I think you might be
love
right.
it.
I think you might be right. That might be a unique.
Yeah. When I see this game, I was like, I'm not gonna like this game. But then when we played it, I was like, no wait, I do. I love
it's
this
pretty
game.
good.
I would agree with you. I think it beats out Mysterium for
Yeah,
me.
for sure.
But they are very similar.
So I think we must be in that realm of where we think our unique titles are showing up because my number 7 I feel is unique, and it is Oros. This one is from Ash Games and actually coming out to retail right now from Lucky Duck. And this is one we had a chance to play back when they had the Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah.
And it is a game unlike any game I've ever played.
That's
It
true.
genuinely is a unique game where you're not placing tiles necessarily, but you're moving tiles around, smashing them together using math to build those tiles up into mountains and then building temples and all sorts of things on
So it's
the
like
mountains.
2048.
Oh. No, it is completely unique, Emily. No, but Oros is this interesting game of tiles that it's a little, there's some mental gymnastics for sure. I will warn you with that, but if you can get past the mental gymnastics of all the math and then how all the tiles move around the board, it really, really works really well. Plus, the guy who did it did everything.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, yeah.
everything.
Like,
Oh really?
everything. He did the graphic design, he did the artwork, he did the game design, and even the videos that they put together to teach.
I was gonna say when I sought this man out because when he put out, you know how people put out like little trailers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw his trailer for his game, and I was like, I immediately wanted his game.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I contacted him right after I saw the video. I was like, I want to play your game like right now. Do you have a digital version? Let's play it right now.
Wow.
And I played it with him like within 2 weeks.
And he did those
It was so
videos,
impressive.
too.
Everything he did was so impressive as far as creating the hype around the game and thankfully, it is a very, very good game.
Yeah, I highly recommend giving
Yeah.
it a try. It is going to be an experience unlike anything you've typically, unless it's 2048
Yeah.
or whatever you
We
just
didn't even talk about my favorite
I
part.
can't wait to play that.
What was your
game.
favorite part?
The worker placement and the leveling up of the different powers over
Yeah,
there. Like,
Oh, yeah.
track
Try-
zone, track zone, track zone.
Right,
tracks.
and just
Yeah.
that timing element of like, I really want to take this action, but there's already a worker there, so I have to move that worker to an action I don't want to take.
Yeah, that's more of the
Just-
mental gymnastics
Just
too.
to free that spot up.
It does hurt your head a little bit, so be prepared to play this game because you're like, oh, I did this action, but I've kind of screwed myself with this next thing that I wanted to do. So I think you haven't played it, right?
I have not played it.
I think you might like it.
No, I
actually.
think
Well,
you might
if
love
you
it.
want to see our mental gymnastics, we did live stream it.
Yeah, we
You
did.
could see
Check out our
our
live stream.
brains working, trying to figure out some of the puzzle.
So yeah, that was my
That's
number
a smart
7.
game. That's a really smart game.
Yeah.
My number 7, I don't think is going to be unique. I would be shocked if this is unique, but it is Scout, which is
Never heard of it.
I am shocked, actually.
Never heard of it.
I'm shocked it's so low on your list.
yes, which just
true.
goes to show how much I really like the other games coming up. But Scout is a trick-taking ladder game where you're be able to take up cards, but the cards have to stay in the order that they start in, right? So you can either keep them in this order or you can flip them upside down. But then once they're set, they're set. And so when you're going in, you're trying to run out of cards. It's very simple, but it's really enjoyable, really easy to pick up, and
Oh, yeah.
we've played it so many times because you can just play it like whenever you've just finished a long game and you're like, what do we want to play next? I don't know, let's just play Scout a few times and see how that goes. And it's just super fun to pick up and play all the time. I really want to get my own copy of it. I haven't yet, and I think they're still on back order right now.
It was hard to get for a minute,
Yeah.
and then it came back in. I saw it, and
convention floor. Yeah,
I
I was gonna
grabbed
say.
it as soon as I could.
When I was at Gen Con, I straight up got up at like an extra half an hour early to get inside of there so I could stand and wait for
I
them to
know.
open.
I'm not really
Yeah.
big on hype, so I was just like,
Yeah.
oh, if it's good enough, I'll want
No.
it in 6 months. And now I'm here
Yeah.
later being
I
like,
want it.
I do want it.
I
I do
wanted
want
it
it.
last year, and I was like, you couldn't get it anywhere. You couldn't order from them,
Yeah.
nowhere.
Yeah.
And then like finally this year, you could.
Well, I
finally
think
get
the
it.
Spiel nomination had something to do with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Everyone
there you go.
wanted it after that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we'll see. I think it might be on another list.
Yeah.
So this game I am without right now. I sold it because I want the
Ooh.
deluxe edition so
Oh.
bad.
Okay, makes sense.
That's how bad I want it, and it is Carnegie.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, man, I want that game back so bad. I may overpay for it. I want it back so bad.
Wow.
I feel like this is playing into why it's on your top 10.
Yeah.
Like it's your desire to have
Well,
it.
no,
back.
but I
It's a good
had
game.
it. I had it, and I said, "Oh, you know what? I like this game so much. I want the Kickstarter edition." Like I was like, I just
Sure.
want it right away. And I was like, let me just. Now that it's gone, I'm like, man, I want to play it. I want to play it. So the Carnegie theme. Okay, so it's got this Carnegie theme, but really what you're doing is you're like doing a combination of things. You're going on these different tracks in different parts of the United States. So it's like north, south, east, west. You're trying to create like road patterns throughout the thing to connect cities, to connect your industries, I guess, or whatever. I'm not really going hard on this theme here, but you also have your own board with all these different places where you can kind of move your workers
headquarters
around.
building, right?
Yeah,
Like
your
all your
headquarters
factories.
building where you can trigger different things in the factories. And there was something about that part that I love so much, like that management going on there, and you're sending people off on missions, I guess what it is, and like you're sitting them there. I just love the way you interact in a multiplayer game. I thought that was interesting, like the timing on that board with the different actions that you have on the board. I thought that was really smart. It I kept thinking about that over and over when I was playing again. And I was like, even though you know how things may trigger in the game, it's still interesting to me.
Yeah.
And the solo mode was really a lot like there was very little upkeep to me, which I was like, man, this is really smooth. So I could just get back to playing the game.
I see.
And I still get a little bit of the anticipation of what actions are going to come up and how they're going to come up in the game, which still works for me. And I played it a good 5 times or so, and I saw a lot of feedback where they were like, well, you're kind of just playing the same game every time. I didn't feel like that.
Really?
So
It's player controlled.
Yeah,
The actions
it
come
is
out in a
player
different way.
controlled, but people are like, well, it just feels the same every time. I'm like, well, you know what you need to do.
Sure,
You know what you need
sure.
to do to score, but it's not the same thing every time, especially when players are manipulating it. So, that one really is just a very, very good game. It's also a very high quality product. If you get the deluxe edition, it's absolutely insane. But
if
so-
you get the deluxe edition.
when I get it. But that one was definitely one of the best games I played this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're
All
down
right.
to number 6.
We're done to number 6 for me. Number 6 for me is Endless Winter, which is
about
another
that?
one.
I see.
I wasn't sure if this would be on your list because I know you guys didn't love it as much as I did, but I really like what's happening in Endless Winter because this is another one of those games that you kind of touched on this earlier, where it feels like a lot of different mini games are happening, and I really enjoy that in a game where it's like, oh, which mini games do I want to really participate in this time I play?
Sure.
And because of that, it does feel different. I think every time I play that game. And there are so many different modules that you could add in that add in more mini games that you can choose from. So you're participating in the area control mechanic, you're participating in the hunting, you're participating in like the deck building, and maybe you want to go heavy on building up your deck so that you can reveal during what they call the eclipse phase. So there's just so much happening in this game, and there's so many different parts to this game. But I feel like it's very simple to play in that it's just broken down to those 4 actions.
Yeah.
And it's like each one of those 4 actions interacts with one of those 4 elements of the game, or more if you're playing with some of the different modules. But it's very simple. You have a lot of engine building opportunities with
Yes.
like your chieftain has a variable player power.
Yeah.
You get some ritual cards or culture cards that give you some stuff that nobody else gets from a unique deck. And so, I don't know, I just something about that game I really enjoy, and it feels very satisfying. And part of it is the great artwork from, I think it's the Miko that did
Yep.
the artwork there, and then the production value for the game is again
Yeah, the
Very
production
phenomenal.
high production
So
value.
It's a
lot
good-looking game.
A lot of that does influence me because I just enjoy seeing that game set up, and I enjoy manipulating all the pieces to it. But at the end of the day, it's a fun game from a designer that I love, and I thought really hard between Endless Winter and Resurgence, which either one of them could have been in this spot, but I went with Endless Winter just because there's so much more replayability there, I think.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it's just one of my favorite games by Stan, and we'll probably see this a little bit later on in the thing.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, I definitely think it's doing a lot of very interesting things. It pleases you in a lot of different places. It pulls you in different ways.
Yes, it does.
And I will just say this early on is that I do like it at all player counts.
All right.
So
Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
Does
Interesting.
it has a solo?
Yes, it does.
I haven't tried yet.
Well, my number 6
Mm-hmm.
is not Endless Winter. And I will let you know it's not on my list.
Okay.
But my number 6 is Mille Fiore.
Oh.
You mentioned it earlier. You were one of the ones that told me about it.
Yeah.
So thanks, Tom. Thanks, Jeremy. The chain went to me.
Wait, why have you not told me about it?
We're trying to keep it from you. Emily and I played this a few times.
Yeah.
And I've played it quite a bit on my own as well. This game is a blast. It's fun. Everyone I've played it with really enjoyed it. We had a great time playing
Yes.
it with kind of a unique mix of our extended family. Her mother and my oldest son, the 4 of us played, and it was a really good time. And in fact, we both lost that game.
Yes.
Oh,
like
wow.
quite a
We
bit.
came in 3rd and 4th place, but still had a blast because the drafting is really fun. It is one of those simple drafting games where
Yes.
it's like driving this board and it goes so quickly, and the drafting is really fun. And then the other mechanic that we haven't mentioned is all these cards that you
Bonus
would
cards,
typically
yeah.
draft are in a bonus display, and you can trigger bonuses in all of those mini games around the board.
yeah.
And when you do, you just take whatever card from there you want, and it's effectively a
Another
whole
turn.
another
Oh,
action.
I like that.
Yes, it's no, dude.
I
it's
like those
really good.
combos.
Oh,
I
and
so
you-
forgot that part, man. That's so awesome.
It's a
Yeah.
huge part. I mean, I think in one of our games, Emily,
3.
she got 3 of those cards.
One-
so
one
she had
turn.
her
It's like,
main
boom,
card,
and
and
boom.
then you take a card. Oh, and that triggered a bonus, and you take a card, and that triggered a
Wow.
bonus. You know,
gosh.
I
and
love those moments.
in the world of sort of action economy.
Yes.
That's a good thing for you to
Yes,
have happen,
yes.
so you're able to interact with the board that much on your turn. But yeah, it's a really good, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
it
think
is.
it's
Yeah.
a gorgeous game. Some
Yeah.
people may not like it because it's pastel colors and whatnot, but I think it's a gorgeous game.
I think
on
when
the
you see it
table.
laid out as you play the game, you're like, wow, this is really pretty.
Well,
Yeah.
especially at the end too, when all the tiles are
Right,
out there.
when all
the
it's just
tiles
like a
are
little
out there.
pretty
It's all
picture.
shiny. I
Yes.
let it sit up one night, and I got up the next morning, and I came out, and the sunlight was shining just right.
Oh,
It was
wow.
gorgeous. It was like shimmering.
Where's that photo?
Okay,
I
yeah,
wish I-
where's that photo
I
for the
should've
top
taken
10?
a
Make
photo.
sure you edit it in. All right?
My number 6 is another one that I think is unique. I'm almost positive. It's Wild Style. Wild Style is a game by Pandasaurus.
Oh, is that
Sure,
that
you're right.
That skateboarding game?
It's a skateboard. It's the
yeah.
tagging game. So what you do in it is you are getting. It's a real-time game where you're trying to get collections of 3 cards, and when you get a collection of 3, you tag an area on the board. I like it a lot. I was looking for real-time games this year at Gen Con, and I played this one. I was like, this is exactly what I wanted. It's just like a quick
Wow.
real-time card game, and but it also has the tile placement a little bit, so there's a little bit of interesting scoring, right? So it's not just
Yeah.
like who can do it fastest. necessarily not do it fastest, but still score better if you're like looking for the right things. Or you could just have a ton of fun just doing this stuff really fast and be like, I don't care if I win, I just get to do all the stuff.
That what you're describing to me sounds stressful.
Yeah.
No,
It does.
it's so fun.
What-
I'm
you just
not a
said
big
to me-
real-time player though.
Yeah,
so.
what you just said is like I was like, I want this game. I want to play this game.
It's so much
yeah,
fun.
that
You'd
sounds
love
so fun.
it. You'd
I will tell you,
love it.
Spanosaurus has had some really interesting
They
games
have.
this year.
Yes.
And I was playing the Fox game. I was playing the
Fox
Fox
Experiment?
game.
Yeah.
I was looking for the Wolves game, which I have not played. And then somebody was trying to explain to me Skate Summer, which sounds really fun as well, and Wild Style, which I was like, nah. Now you're explaining it. I'm like,
It's so
that
much
sounds
fun.
good. So Spanosaurus really doing some wild stuff this year. And I'm
Yes.
Wild
digging it.
stuff.
Wild
Wild
stuff.
style.
Oh,
Nice.
I didn't even know. I didn't even know.
Nice.
Sorry. I did not. Trust me, I did not know. Sorry. So my game is big, is grandiose. It is the most ridiculous. I call it the most ridiculous board game product ever.
Oh.
It is. It's Foundations of Rome.
Yeah.
It is so ridiculous.
is.
Now, I love that though. I love that this game is very easily digestible. It's very easy to play and explain to people. But it's absolutely beautiful to look at, and it attracts people to the table. And
For sure.
I love games that bring people to the table. We just talked about Mille Fiori and how beautiful it looks on the table. Well, this one here, it'll make you stop in your tracks. And the thing about it is when they get down to the table, what they're going to do is have fun. And you can make it very simple. You're buying the cards, you put your little spots on there, and then when you have enough to build, you put something on there to build it, and it starts to build this beautiful city layout. But if you want more gameplay out of it, you can start adding these modules, and that's where you can add monuments, you can add player abilities, you can add mission goals. And I just played it again this week, and just adding all that stuff in, I was just like, this confirms that this game, I just want more of it. And I think that's something that, like that's memorable to me. But I just want to know that I can break this big box out, and then an hour later, those people that I convinced to play the game will be like, man, that was fun.
Yeah.
And I know that game's fun. I know that people don't like that it's an expensive game, and I'm right there with you. But I'm so glad that it confirmed, like, that was fun. This
Yeah.
game is still fun. And I made sure I didn't play it for a long time
Yeah.
just to prove it. And I was like, it's been like 5 or 6 months. And I was like, yeah, it's still
So funny. 'cause
still
when you-
memorable how good it is.
When you look at it, you're like, this is going to be some big, complicated game. I'm going to take an hour to learn.
yeah.
But it's so simple.
Super
is.
straightforward.
Super straightforward on how to play
And I
it.
think we played it with, I think it was 3 new players. So
I believe
and
that.
they just
Totally believe
and they were
that.
just like, yeah, although they're like hobbyist games, but they were like, yeah, that game was really fun.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that game didn't make my list, but it was so close. It was in my consideration pool. I had to cut some. But I love it, and I love the scoring. Like this is another game where I love these games where scoring goes, has
Yes,
that art.
increases, yeah.
Because you're like, okay, well, I'll put this building down. It's only scoring 1 point now. But then based on it, as things go around it, now it's like, now it's worth 6 points by the end of the game, which is quite a bit in that game. And you're scoring more and more and more points as the city grows. But you can also pivot, and you can deconstruct your small buildings to replace them with big buildings as you gain more areas. And if you play with the trading and stealing module, it adds another
Yes.
element of negotiation.
I was gonna say
as well.
You can make
don't
this
wanna
game
negotiate.
You can make this
I don't know
game
about that.
a little cutthroat if you want. Like some people get a little smart and hit to the game. It's like, how do I wait? If this person's gonna put this here, I'm gonna pounce on this opportunity. And
Sure.
since there's something for every space, there's a card for every space. Sometimes people are like, well, I'll just buy this card. So there's like just enough of that interaction. It makes everybody feel smart. It makes everybody feel a little sneaky. Like it's all in this game that's happening in like an hour
Yes.
tops, and it's like that. That is very good. And when you get done, you can take all these beautiful pictures of what you did.
Yeah,
definitely-
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I do every time.
Yeah.
Number 5.
We are down to the 5.
Number 5 for me is a fairly new game, but I've played it a lot since its release, and that is called Heat. This is a racing game,
It's a very new game.
Formula One racing game from the designers of Flamme Rouge. When I heard that it was coming out, I had to play it. And yeah, it is pretty recent. I played it for the first time at PAX Unplugged, which was only about a month ago, but everyone there was saying Heat. Everyone was playing Heat. Everyone was walking around with it, and I got convinced to play it, and I fell in love with it immediately. I love what this game is doing with the deck building elements that are added into this racing game. I loved Flamme Rouge, so I was definitely on board already. And it does have some of the DNA. We talk about it a little bit more in a video on the channel that David and I did, but the deck building is so much fun. The managing your heat by having to like, decide when to take a corner really hard, or like when to boost your car, when to like push for it, is very cool. There's a lot of positioning elements. You can slipstream around other cars if you land in the right spot. Mm-hmm. But what really makes this game for me is the championship mode, where you can actually play through a championship and you can upgrade your car. You can earn sponsorships by doing specific things like showing off for the press. You could add new elements to your car that replace old cars and make your deck better and allow you to do some things other players can't do. But at the end of the day, it's just a really tense, tight deck building game with a lot of really tough decisions. And for me personally, all the games I've played for it have been great. And we played it at 3. I wanted to make sure I played it at a small player count before I was able to recommend it. And it was great even at 3 for me. So this is one I'll be playing well into 2023.
So I'll just say this. It's my number 5 as well.
Wow.
We'll just cut this out. We'll just let this jump out of order and kind of cover it at the same time.
Order in the court.
Order in the court. No, so it's my number 5 as well. So Heat. I'm a big, huge fan of Flamme Rouge. And I love race games. And one of my favorite race games, my favorite race game is Rallyman Dirt, which is coming really soon. And this game right here is like, I need to play Rallyman Dirt again because this could be my favorite racing game. And I don't like to go full recency, but for it to take over Flamme Rouge and just make me forget it, the person that I played it with was like, I'm buying this right now, and he's getting rid of his Flamme Rouge. Like, that's how much we enjoy this game. The fact that the hand management in this game is just so fun, and it feels thematic because of the risk that you have to take with your hand to get what you want. And it all starts with like adding equipment to your car that you want to build your car with. You can do that if you want to, or you can just run a race. And what it boils down to are those moments that it creates. It's like, hey, if I go around this corner, I may have to take some heat cards, but I may want to take as many as I want because next time I'm going to try to get out this big hand. But there's just moments where you have to make all these choices, and it's such a simple game, but you know the way to your choices and the risks you have to take at any moment in that game, and I love that part. It's like, how much heat am I going to take? Or I can't afford to take any more heat, or maybe I'll play stress cards so I can get through my heat. So there's just a lot of those easy moments that you go like, I need to be smart or I need to be risky. And that feels good. Like you feel like a driver making this big choice
you really
of how
do.
you're going to turn around this corner. And that's exciting to me. And the fact that there's 4 different maps already. And like I said, you got those equipment cards and different modules. That's stuff that we had to wait years for from Flamme Rouge. Sure. And it's not a direct Flamme Rouge. It actually is an improvement on everything in the game, actually, everything.
Yeah, I would say so.
And it just kind of completely annihilates the game. So, yeah, it just made a huge impression for me, especially because I haven't even owned it that long. And, it's that memorable. It is definitely going to be one of my favorite racing games, if not my favorite, after I play Rallyman Dirt. We'll see how it goes.
That's cool. Nice.
Yeah.
My number 5 is also, I'm just kidding, it's not Heat.
I feel bad.
My number 5 is Resurgence. Ryan mentioned this earlier.
So close to
Endless
being there,
Winter,
yeah.
Resurgence, both with Stan involved.
Oh, yeah, he's fantastic.
We played Resurgence back at Gen Con, 2 years ago?
It might have been 2.
We had our first experience playing it then. And I knew, we said that that year, we'd like, if this came out this year, this would be in our top 10. Yeah. And this thing, it finally came out very recently, within the last month or so. Yeah. And that's why it's in my top 10. I want to get it played more. I haven't played it as much since we've had it, the actual final version, as we did when we had the prototype. Yeah. But this game is a bag building game. It has kind of Orleans vibes, but the cool thing that this adds to it is sort of all the mind games. Because when you pull the things out of your bag, you put them behind this player shield, and you kind of organize them on this little board where it's kind of the staging board for where they're going to go on the main board. And no one else knows this, so it has a couple different impacts there, because when you reveal, you're able to go up a few different tracks if you put the most in certain zones.
I see.
But then also, once you start placing out in the zones, this is worker placement. So if I place in this one spot, people can go there, but they have to pay a little extra.
Gotcha.
But you can look at everyone's board at that point and go, oh, you're putting a lot in the waterfront district. I better get my one guy placed in the waterfront district now before it gets too costly to go there. And it's going to make you have to pay a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of things going on, and I love the look of it, and I love the theme. It's really, really cool.
I really want to play this one. You guys talked about
do.
when you guys first played it, you were like talking about it so much. So it must have been.
I
mean,
it
it
was
is-
a couple years
Yes.
ago, yeah.
It is really good, and I really almost made my list. I mean, I had to decide because I really wanted both Endless Winter and Resurgence on there, but I had to make a cut, and it was.
Yeah,
Brian,
for
I have
me-
a great picture of you with Resurgence, by the way, from when you first
me,
played
yeah, it
when
was
you
fun.
first
It's a
played.
great
You should
game.
have seen the joy in his eyes. You look like a little boy.
It's a
you look like a little boy
it's a
full
great
of joy.
game. It's a fun game.
I gotta, you know what? You better make sure you edit that picture in there. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna pull that picture.
Give
off
me
of-
the picture. We'll
I
put it in the
gotta have that.
Oh,
in there. He
man.
looks so joyous.
So, Emily, what is your number 5?
My number 5 was Wayfarers of the South
Oh,
Tigers.
okay.
wow.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. We played it pretty recently too. It's a tableau building game, and I love tableau builders. So I think a big part for me is at the end of this game, you see all these cards you've played throughout the game on the desert, on the water, in the sky, and all
is
the different
pretty.
parts that
Yeah,
I've brought
it's so
out for
pretty.
you. I love that. But it also has a really interesting like dice placement kind of mechanic where the dice you roll are going to give you different icons that you can use, and you can take it onto different spaces based on which icons you had. And you can also then like kind of one up those icons by taking tiles throughout the game to kind of manipulate what each number is going to give you.
Yeah.
It's very interesting how all these things come together, and then there's even like a little bit of worker placement on like which
Yep.
cards you can take from the different tableaus. So it has a whole bunch of mechanics coming together. It's a lot of iconography. Lot.
It is a lot.
love
Lot.
iconography.
I would say it's definitely. Would you say it's fair to say it's the heaviest of their games?
I think so.
To date.
I think so
Heavier
too.
than Chaos Order?
maybe not that.
within the
the
Wait,
kingdoms,
like just
within-
wait.
the
Oh,
however you
Kingdoms
wanna-
game.
whatever this trilogy
Chaos
is called.
Order is pretty heavy too,
it's
from
pretty
what I
heavy.
understand.
The Directions series.
Yeah, and from what I understand, the next one, I can't remember. The
Scholars?
Scholars looks to be also pretty heavy.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm
for
excited
Scholars,
for
too.
it then
Yeah.
because I really liked it. It was a lot
I
of
have
fun.
yet to play.
I
this
like
game. really
Wayfarers.
wanna
You haven't
play.
played Wayfarers?
I
yet?
have not. I really want to.
Yeah,
play
we
it.
should
Ooh,
try to
yeah.
get that
That-
played.
Yeah, because that's another one that was very close to being in my top 10.
I'm
There was
surprised
just-
it didn't make yours. 'cause
Well,
It was on my short list.
There was
Yeah.
just a few, yeah, it was on my short list too. There was just a few things that maybe like it would definitely be top 15.
Sure.
Because it was in my top 15 that I had to cut. So
Yeah, it was probably on my short list because this is one of the few heavy games that I almost won.
Yeah.
Almost, it was
we-
so close.
We thought we won. I was like, did I win? I played these
David's
two.
so surprised.
I
Let
never
me redo the math. There's no way that I won
I
this game.
never play heavy games where I beat these two, and I literally was like, no, I couldn't have won. And then I was like, all right, I won. Then Emily goes, oh, actually, we forgot we forgot to score this one thing.
Actually,
And
actually.
I think you had been like 3 points behind me.
I did.
Yeah.
And then she went like 5 or more points
Yeah.
ahead of me, and I was like, thanks, Emily. That's why it's not on my list. So now we're skipping Jeremy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of.
Number
And
4.
we're back to you with number 4.
Number 4 for me, this is another one that I thought might just be mine because this game came out so early in this year that I feel like people forgot it
It's
came
not
out
on
this
there
year.
then.
That's
Yeah.
Dead Reckoning.
There you
This delivered like very
I
late
doubt it.
2021, very early 2022. Dead Reckoning, I absolutely love this game. I have had so much fun with every single play that I have played of this game, and I regretted waiting so long. It was like halfway through the year before I finally played it. You got me to play it.
Yeah, we've had access to that in the prototype form a
I know,
long
I
time ago.
didn't
I
play
was
the
shocked that you had
prototype.
never played it.
And I know you were very hot on
most
it.
anticipated game
I
for
know,
years.
forever.
I've had it on my most anticipated list at least 3 times.
Well, so the reason I was hesitant was because I got really hyped for Edge of Darkness, and Edge of Darkness did not work for me like I wanted it to. This
Yeah.
does. This is the best card crafting game I have seen because each card in your deck is a crew member, and as you're upgrading them, you're putting in these new cards that give them like potentially 3 stacked abilities, and then every time they come onto your deck, they're better, but also you're able to upgrade the base card itself by taking the card out and putting a higher level version of that card in there, and you're unlocking these abilities, but you're upgrading based on what's in your hand, you know, at the start of your next turn. So you're not always getting to upgrade the cards you want, so you're not always able to just run with the same strategy. Plus the cards that are coming out on the board, it's spatial, so you're not buying from a row. You actually have to go
That's my-
sail
spot, yeah.
That's
to
my
the
favorite
card
thing.
that you want. And while you're sailing there, you might get attacked by other players. There's
Yes.
merchant ships on the board. There's all these islands you can habit. And so you might be going to an island not only to take a card, but also because you want to populate that island or control that island and get points for it that way. And there's so much going on, but it all works together really well. And then there's the sagas you can add on that give you like storylines and narratives. Like I can see myself playing this game for years to come as all of the new content comes out. So yeah, my biggest regret is that I waited so long to play it.
It's
so
very
good.
thematic too, right? Like you're
Incredibly
exploring,
so.
and it feels like you're exploring
Man.
with all the reveals and everything you're doing. It feels like big attacks and stuff are happening, and with that tower for the
combat tower,
Yes.
yeah,
It's
where you're
fun.
loading up cannons on your ship and you're dropping the cubes to indicate all the cannonballs.
And that is a bit
It's
more
fun.
of a chaotic aspect of the game,
But
it
warfare
is
is-
so fun.
Warfare
Yes.
is chaotic.
That tower is so much fun. That is also why it's my number 4.
No, is it really?
I hate to burst your bubble.
I wasn't sure if you would because it came out.
I knew he would. I was like, if David doesn't have it on his list, are
you had
kidding me?
access to it before me, and you had actually put it in 2021, so I wasn't sure.
Yeah, it definitely is going to make my list. Thankfully, I can finally put it on my top 10 list of
It's
the year.
actually, yeah.
And for all the same reasons he just listed, this is a great. It feels very much like a sandbox pirate game that has all these great mechanics that are just a lot of fun. And it's a thinky game. It's a competitive game, and you can play it in several different ways to try to score your points. Yeah, Dead Reckoning. John DeClaire killed it with this
You had
one.
a good year this year.
And I said it when we originally did content for this way back when. That card crafting, it's perfected in this game, in my opinion. And
Yeah.
it's one of the things I've always been wanting in a deck builder is that spatial element of having to go out to get
Yes.
your card. And they did that so well. It's not just abstractly going out either. It's all those things. It's an island. Oh, what's on that island? And then the saga stuff, too, makes it even more interesting because there's even, like, quasi-narrative aspects that will pull you out to islands. It's
Well, and we got to play the expansion too,
Yeah,
which
we
added,
have
I
played
think,
it.
even more. It added tracks and new resources. It
That's
was,
it. I have
Oh.
a really pristine box behind me.
yeah, Jeremy, you've got to try it.
It's got to
I
be
think
the
you'd like
it
it,
might be the
for
new
sure.
initiative in my collection. I don't know. Little callback there if you know the initiative thing. But it is out of the wrapping. Unlike initiative, it is out of the wrapping, but it is probably one of my most pristine games in my collection because it hasn't moved from its spot right
so
there.
We're gonna remedy that.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
You should play it for sure. My number 4 is Woodcraft. So another heavier game,
Yeah.
and this one is it has an interesting action selection mechanic, right, where you're in a wheel. It reminded me a bit of Praga, and I think for me, if we're gonna use the killer term, I think it'd be a Praga killer.
Oh,
because
really?
That's what I liked most about Praga was that action selection mechanic,
Yeah.
and I think Woodcraft just does it better. Like I enjoyed it more there.
Mm-hmm.
It's very tight game, but it's also incredibly thematic. So you have like these two things where like you're playing this really hard, tight game, and you always wanted to be doing more than you can. But you're also like woodcrafting and like elves and like making cute little things with cute little furry animals. And the two of them at once are exactly what I want in a game. Like a very light, nice theme, but also a really crunchy, hard puzzle to crack.
Well, you didn't even mention the actual wood crafting part where you can cut the wood
Yes.
and glue the
Oh
wood.
yeah,
and-
that's the thematic part is what would have. It was on my short list. It was not on my list, but it was on my short list because of that. Probably not on my list ultimately because of that tightness.
It is very
Yeah,
tight.
it's
It is
little
a tight
too
game.
tight.
Emily loves that.
I
Like,
love that in a
yeah.
game. Yes.
I normally do, but see, for me, I just love Praga so much.
Yeah, I like.
And I
Praga,
play
man.
I play Woodcraft and I love that action tile, but at the same time I'm like, I let's go play Praga after this.
Yeah.
Praga is a little bit more in my wheelhouse. I did not like Woodcraft at all.
Oh really? I
No, I know
still
a lot.
like Woodcraft
It
a
was.
lot.
It all depends on when you play, who you play with.
Yeah.
Now you played with a good group of people.
Yeah,
if I
we
remember
played with
correctly.
a
It was
fantastic
us.
group of beautiful people. But yeah, I just yeah, and I didn't feel the same. But I do. That was the thing. That wheel was like close to Praga, and I just prefer Praga.
Wow.
Oh, I like that Woodcraft
Yeah,
wheel.
I just prefer
I like
Praga.
Woodcraft better.
So I know this game's not on anybody's list. It is a game I've been tracking down, and I finally got a chance to play it. And me and my friends stepped away, and we were like, "This is the truth."
Oh,
right
I
here."
know it. I know what's coming.
It's Guards of Atlantis 2.
Yep.
So Guards of Atlantis 2, I've been tracking down. I even tried to track down the prototype of the game because I wanted to get my hands on it. It is a game you won't be able to get until they really, if they launch another Kickstarter. I had to track it down. But it did come out this year. It's a game that kind of is like a MOBA. You're going to have these different areas right here. You're going to have different areas, and you're going to be in teams of 2. So you can be 2, 4, 6, or 8, and I think you can even get up to 10 if you wanted to, because they do have an other side of the map that's crazy. And you're trying to basically defeat enough troops, or you're defeating, pushing the troops into their base, or you are defeating people, your boss or your person enough times to win. And what you're doing in this game is very simple. I mean, you're playing a card, and the speed of the card, and you're trying to take actions, and they're very, very easy to digest. But the cool part is that every character has its own theme and its own deck, and it has its own way of upgrading, I think up to like 6 or 8 levels. So you're adding these different kind of cards to your area. It's very simple to play, which is great. That's the thing about it. I think this year I'm a little bit more on the simplicity kick. And this one here is very, very easy to pick up, and it's very rewarding, and it gets to the action very quickly because you have to worry about your troops being pushed back by having them be defeated. And the cool thing is that you don't have to have all these minis moving around and trying to figure out all this stuff. They just attack. Or they protect you, and you just move around. And then if they lose a certain amount, you subtract the number and move everybody back to a different section. And if they lose again, they move back to the section, so then they lose. It's very, very easy to play, and there's almost 20 characters. So it's like Super Fantasy Brawl in the sense that like you just have so many characters with their own abilities that you're just like, oh my God, what if we did this and this person has fire and they do this? And you're like, you start to look to the decks, and I haven't even played with all of them. I'm just like, oh my God, this is so fun. This is going to be so fun. Like to try it with different people. I only think of Super Fantasy Brawl because I think of how easily digestible that game is to play and how it is to read the cards and understand how they interact. And this one's even more simpler. But the abilities that set the characters apart is what makes that game. And it's just memorable.
I'm surprised this isn't like as passionate as you've been right now.
Yeah.
And on Chit Chat talking about this.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's not like number 1 or 0.
I think
Zero.
I think the ones that are above this they're just Titans. And it's clear.
Yeah.
It was clear.
Yeah.
We're down to number 3.
Down to number 3.
Start with the Titans.
This, for me, is a game you've probably heard me talk about on the channel. Number 3 is Guild of Merchant Explorers.
Wow.
Now, this is a game that you might look at it and say, okay, well, technically, maybe it's not the best crafted game of the year.
Yeah.
But it is one of the games that I have enjoyed playing the most,
Sure,
more
I can
than
see that.
almost any game I've played. I love heavy games. This game is not that. So I think a lot of people would look at this game and say, it's so light, it's a little fiddly with the cubes, not even give it a chance. But there's something about this game that just sucks me in. And a big part of it is that every game is a puzzle. You're trying to build out this map by placing cubes. Cards are coming out to tell you where you can put your cubes, and you're having to kind of time it. You're kind of hoping, I hope the mountain card comes out before the desert because I need to cross the mountain to get to the desert. And when it doesn't, you're trying to figure out another way around that. But what really makes that game for me is those investigation cards.
Yeah.
And at certain points, you're drawing those, and you're drawing 2. And every time you look at them, you're like, these powers are so broken.
Yeah.
This is cheating. Like, I feel like I'm literally cheating when I'm playing them. And I love that feeling because now you're just exploding out on the board in a really crazy way. And you're playing it simultaneously with other players. Then you have to stop and be like, wait a minute, what? You have a thing that lets you cross like the entire ocean?
Yeah.
Like what? Like, and so it feels really good. And the next game, you'll probably get those. And it plays in like an hour. There's like
pretty quick.
6 different maps. Each map has multiple different objectives. So even though I play this game a lot, it feels fresh every single time I play it.
Yeah, it barely missed my list. It was definitely on my very short list.
I will play this game forever.
This was this would be the number 3 work game of the year right here. It was so hard to keep that one off the list too because I just enjoyed it so much.
Yeah.
Don't bump the table.
Don't bump the table. Yeah, don't.
But definitely a great pro tip. Don't bump the table. But,
You heard it here first.
Yeah.
All right, my number 3 has been mentioned before. Let's talk about it a little bit more. It is Scout. There's no surprise that this was nominated for the Spiel. Once I got a chance to play it, which was well after Gen Con, I was regretting not having picked it up at Gen Con. So then I was like literally on the search, and as soon as I saw it online, I was like, boom, and I grabbed it. And you can play this with anyone, especially if you have like extended family who you're trying to get into board games, but they don't like board games, but they maybe grew up playing euchre or games like that. You can get Scout to the table.
Yeah.
And this has one of those teachable moments where when you teach this one aspect, everyone's
Keep
like,
them in order.
what? When you have to keep those cards in order and you're playing them in the little packets as you have them, that is the most mind-boggling thing to new players. They're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And it is also hard to remember, too, sometimes. Like, I've been guilty myself when I get down to 2 cards and I do the nervous...
Oh, no.
You can't do that.
don't
But
do that.
yeah, Scout is one of the greatest card games of that ilk that I've ever played. It is just really, really
I would say
fun.
it has elegance, right? Because
Yeah.
it's just simple, but it's fun, and it
Yeah.
has so much reward to it. I love that in a game.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, it's great.
That's my number 3.
My number 3 is Decorum, which is another
Oh.
cooperative
Another
deduction
deduction game.
Yeah. So Paint the Roses didn't make mine, but Decorum is my cooperative deduction game that did make it for me.
At 2 players?
At
Or
2 players.
4 players?
Okay, well, sorry.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, let's-
It's not
okay.
great. I still have hope, though, that maybe we just picked something that was a little too
Okay.
hard.
We did try a
We
hard
tried
one.
like
Boy,
the
we
hardest
tried hard.
one when we tried it, and that was not great for us. But 2 players, it's a lot of fun,
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to playing it more at 2 players. I think it feels really thematic with what you're doing. You're decorating a house together, and I have conditions that I want, and Ryan might have conditions that he wants, and together we're trying to cooperatively create this house that meets both of our conditions. But all we can say is, I like it, I don't like it, or I'm whatever, right? I'm neutral towards it when he does something. So it can end up with these times where, like, I put in a yellow lamp, and then on Ryan's turn, he takes out my yellow lamp. And I'm like, Ryan, are you kidding me? And you
I don't
really
like
start
yellow lamps.
to feel those feelings of this passive-aggressive nature
Yep.
where you're like, come on, I need to get this thing for my card. And then he keeps taking it out, and you're like, well, what are we supposed to do here?
right.
I really enjoy that. They're really quick. There's a lot of scenarios to play through, and I really enjoyed Decorum this year.
It was a really good, nice surprise. Emily and I played that when we had an early copy of it, and I was shocked at how much it recreated that feeling
Yes.
of like, what are you doing?
Yep.
You know, because you're feeling that in the game, just like you would
real
if
life.
someone was like, wait, why are you putting the chair over there? That makes no sense.
You come back from work and that yellow lamp is back. Right? You take it, put it back in the closet.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a fun game. We did have a unique experience at 4 with one of the more challenging things
it was
that
crazy
was rough.
It was really tough. Yeah. So if you
was
think
rough.
like you do the first ones, and you're like, this is pretty simple. Like, it has more challenging stuff in there for you.
Yeah.
So just wait. Like, there's more things coming out in it. Don't worry.
So Jeremy, you're number 3. The
number-
Titans, as you said.
Well, number 3. I always say when they're at the top, they're the Titans, right? So one of my favorite designer, Vital Lacerda, and I think, of course, this game is great. It is Weather Machine.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't tell, you're a fan of Weather Machine.
I am.
You're
I
a
am.
fan of Weather Machine,
Yep.
and you just played Weather Machine.
You became a fan.
I did. I'm a fan in progress.
Yeah. So I would just, even though we've covered a lot on our channel, we talked about a lot on our channel. For me, it's just one of those things of like, this one is actually very digestible in certain parts. Like, it's very easy to me. It's easier game to play.
Yeah, than, like,
but it
some of
has
those
the
other ones.
problem. The problem is the only problem that it has is that there's a lot of little rules that you can get
Yes.
wrong.
Oh, yes.
So that's the key. It is an easier game to get the flow of, but it's definitely a thing that you have to learn how to master. It's a game you have to learn how to master, and there's also a little bit of those little rules that may get you. But what I find though overall is just like it works in my brain. Like, there's something about that game that clicks for me on all cylinders. And I'm so excited that you love this game so
Yes.
much. It's like, now I know we're gamers. Like, we enjoy
No,
this stuff.
it's so
Like,
good.
between our small games and this game, I'm like, we really like
This
the
is where
same
we
games.
overlap.
Like, we like the same games. So there's a bridge there. And this game, when I was making my list, when I made my 1, 2, and 3, I was like, this has to be at the top right away. Like, I didn't even think about it. So yeah, this is just, I love Weather Machine.
Well, it was at the top of my list too, the very top of my list, until I realized that it was on the top of my list last year.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
also
think
put it on
Emily
mine
too,
last
because
year.
we got it. We had an early copy. I played that game so many times last year when we had the prototype, and it wasn't even really a prototype. It was
Yeah,
like
it
a
was,
production.
that
like,
was
it was like a final copy, and so we, with the final rules too, I
Yeah.
should say, because I don't like to judge a game on its prototype rules,
Yeah.
but we had the final rules and we played it so many times, and I fell in love with it. It made it on my top 50 games of all time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's for whatever year, it's definitely on my list.
What's
Well,
your number
it's
2?
Back to you.
All right,
for
well, my
two.
number 2's been mentioned already, and it's Scout. Come on, this game is so good.
Come on.
This game is so good. This is another one like Cat in the Box where I had to say, how did no one come up with this idea before? And the great part of the game for me is one that we haven't talked about, is the actual Scout. The reason the game
Sure.
is called that, it's because when you do have that hand that you mentioned where you have all those cards in a particular order and you're staring at it, and you're like, man, I have 3 5, 6, 7. If only I had a 4 here.
Yeah.
But you can scout when somebody plays cards. You can choose, instead of playing cards to take the trick, you can take one of the cards they played and add it to your hand, and you can flip it and you can put it anywhere. And so this game has a lot more depth than I gave it credit for at first because of that scouting. And you might forego, even if you could take a couple points, you might forego that because it's better to scout because you might not see another 4 this game. So you're trying to take that and like build that huge hand and drop out that huge hand. And every so often you get that chance. And it's a really, really good opportunity.
Very satisfying.
It's very satisfying when you can do that. But there's so many different strategies to employ in Scout. That game, it's like you said, we've done it so many nights. Like it's the last game we play. We're all sitting there. We don't have time for a real game, like a big game. So let's just play Scout for a little bit.
Yeah, it's a satisfying
Great.
puzzle. That's a good point. Putting the cards back in there, you're able to. It almost feels like an app game where you place the right colored crystal and like your whole hand you see how it's all going to play out then. It is a really fun game. My number 2 is probably is it the heaviest game on my list? It is the heaviest game on my list, and it is Revive.
Ooh, I'm glad you put that on your list.
I'm guessing Revive will be on some other lists, but so I'll keep this short. I have an interesting experience with Revive. I've mentioned this maybe on a chit chat before. First time we played it, it was the same night we played Woodcraft, I believe.
Yep.
Yes.
And I wasn't a big fan of it after that experience. It was a little late. Yeah. Again, it was with a great group of people. But it was a little late, and I just wasn't grokking it, I don't think. Yeah. I think that was the thing. Is like,
your face. Watching your face during this whole thing. I mean, you were in pure confusion.
I was like a deer in the
headlights. You were doing this finger thing. You were kind of like, oh.
They make fun of me sometimes for just absolutely not getting it.
Yeah.
And the next day I played it, long story short, and absolutely fell in love with what it was doing because the thing as I wasn't getting the night before, I finally got. And now that I look back at that first game, I realized how horribly I played. I mean, horribly.
You actually missed one whole part of the game. I was like, what are you doing?
Exactly. Like Emily, I'm surprised didn't say, here, David, let me just help.
It's like a game that fires off on all cylinders pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But anyway, this game does a lot. We'll be talking about it, I'm sure, a little bit more. But the variable player powers, for me, is sort of the big takeaway here. The game has all sorts of things going on, and you're very satisfying turns, and you can create some big combos, but those variable player powers are bonkers different, especially if you play on the moon side of the board. And when someone uses their power and uses it successfully, you're like, whoa, that's crazy. And yeah, I just fell in love with it. So it is my number 2 of the year.
Awesome.
Nice. My number 2 of the year is one that I think is going to be on another list, but it hasn't been on it yet. So I don't know. But it's Marrakesh.
Oh.
And I loved Marrakesh. We played it a lot this year, and I would play it again right now if we could. Like, it's so much fun. It has different colored, what they call keshis, but they're little, like, tokens, right? And you can put them in the tower, and you get to see each round how many of them are going to get stuck in the tower, how many of them are going to come out, or come out from previous rounds. So there's like this big reveal in it, and then you're drafting them around the table. So even if you put in, like, I'm going to put in pink because I need pink to come out this round, I really want to be able to take this action, it might not come out. Or it might come out, but Jeremy takes it before I do. Yeah. And so now I can't do that action. I love it so much. It feels like a bunch of mini games around the different colors. But you can do a different strategy each time. You can kind of tailor your strategy to what's coming out on the board, and it really ramps. Like towards the end, you're doing a lot more than you were doing the first turns. It just feels so satisfying, and I loved every play of Marrakesh.
Yeah, it quickly became, I don't know that I want to say yet that it's my favorite Feld, but it's up there.
Is it out already?
Yeah,
yes,
Marrakesh.
I've been waiting for it.
Marrakesh was available
it
was at PAX.
Oh, was it really?
Okay,
well, I totally missed that coming out.
Yeah.
It started delivering in Europe earlier even,
yes.
and I think it's now starting to deliver.
I have
here
a
in the
very
States.
strong feeling that will be on my 2023 list, and probably pretty high on it too.
Wow.
Well, because I want to play it a couple times before.
Yeah.
Definitely want to play. I
Call it
played
Game
one
of the Year,
round, and I
yeah.
think that was with
Was that
you.
the only time
that
you
was
played?
the only
That
time
one
I
round?
played it. So
We demoed it together, and then we played it
Yes,
quite a
we
bit.
played it.
But yeah, it was a really good
It's a
game.
lot of fun.
So number 2. So I should say this up front. This person's a friend of mine. He lives local to me. Stan Kordonsky. That is
Which
Endless
one is it?
Winter. Endless Winter. So Endless Winter. I saw I was near the origin story of this game, so I've seen it grow from what it was. But Endless Winter, there's something about this game where I love deck building. So I love deck building. And it's deck building and worker placement. But it separates itself from games that I knew at that time. This game was launching when Dune came out and Lost Ruins of Arnak. And I was like, what if I told you there was a game that may likely be better than both of them? And I don't know if that's true, but they are great.
They're all
all great, and they're great in their own ways.
Yeah.
And I love that this game is just different. Regardless of the theme, I like the little mini games that are going on there. It keeps you interested in different things based on the game that you're playing. I just love what you can do with cards in that game. I love how you build your deck. I love that you can bury cards. I love there's different strategies to win, because some people if you go on forums, they'll be like, well, all you have to do is collect animals. And other people are like, why would you sit and collect animals the whole game? All you have to do is this and that. No, you don't do that. Or
Sure.
these megaliths are not as important. I'm like, all you got to do is go to the camp stuff. I'm like, no. You can win many different ways, and that's why I enjoy it, because you do have, you're gonna get off combos, you're gonna get off these nice cool turns, and you're gonna feel good when you play this game. I can't say enough good things about it. I just really enjoy that game.
I can confirm too. You also can lose in many different ways.
Yeah, you can.
For sure.
There's a lot of different ways to lose.
You watch people get off a lot of cool stuff in that game. And I feel
Yeah.
like everybody has their moment of something, and that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so before I go to my number one, I do want to have a little bit of a caveat, because I completely expected earlier this year.
Whoa.
I'm just going to say this. I completely expected that Frosthaven would be on my top 10 list. However,
Okay.
I've just barely even got it organized.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to actually dive into Frosthaven and play more than the prototype and play more than the sample I played. Otherwise, that probably would have been on here. But that being said, my number one game is Revive, for a lot of the same reasons
Should've
that
known,
David
should've
mentioned. When I played this game for the first time, Jeremy and I played it together. We kind of learned it together, and you could just see as we were playing and taking some of these actions, oh wow, that feels good. It feels satisfying to move your little pieces around your machine and unlock your powers, to play your cards in places where you've kind of built up those locations so that you're getting extra resources and you're creating these combos, sometimes even comboing into multiple different card plays. And then, there's so much going on in the game where you can combo. You place in a certain area, and that lets you move up some tracks, and those tracks give you rewards, which gives you victory points, and there's rewards on the victory point track, which can give you a supply cache, and then you flip. It can really stack.
Yeah.
And you're taking these really satisfying turns, and unlike some other games, you're doing that a lot. It's not like this happens once per game. This happens every couple turns. You're getting these really, really satisfying turns. And then, of course, those variable player powers, not just that the player powers themselves are so unique, but everyone has the variable upgrades as well. So
Yes,
you're
the whole
turning...
board is
the
variable.
whole board is variable. So as you're upgrading, even if you're playing the same faction, you're unlocking different facets of their powers, because you can't unlock their entire tech tree every game. You're just getting a couple off of that tech tree and building different buildings and things like that. So those powers feel so good, and they interact with the board in such wildly different ways. And again, this is another one where you see somebody do a power and you're like, how did you can't do that? That's,
Yes.
that's
It
you just broke the rules. It's
It is
it's my power. Yeah.
absolutely, the powers are like that. And one other thing, I'm not sure we'll be talking about this game again. We might be talking about it again. But I wanted to say this is, it is one of the most opportunistic games that I've played this year in terms of things happening to the game state where you're like, oh boy, I hope
this is the moment.
I hope no
one
one
better
ever
do
sees
this,
that.
yeah.
And of course, everyone sees it. And there's a spot on the board that's just like, oh my gosh, if I get that, I'm going to be able to blow out all of the things on my player board.
It's that reveal too, because as you're exploring tiles, you're creating new locations to build buildings. And yeah, everyone's eyeing that same spot, but it might be that your power lets you claim it early, or your power maybe that spot is better for you because you have a bonus, and you're just hoping nobody realizes that, doesn't hate draft that spot away from you.
Yeah, it is a really good game. Really good game. So my number one game.
Number one.
What is this?
Number 2 is Revive. Number 1, Emily, has to be Marrakesh.
Yes, I knew it. I knew it.
And we played this, and it is so much fun. I will say this for a fact. Whether it's my favorite Feld ever, I'm not 100% sure. Castles of Burgundy, I'm sorry, but there may be a new king. This one easily is the most fun Feld that I've ever played. That reveal, the cube tower. Everyone takes those Keshi that Emily was talking about earlier, and you're taking them from behind a player board that no one can see, and 3 of them at a time, and everyone reveals. So that's when you find out like what colors are going in the tower. Then you put them in there, and
Who knows?
oh my gosh, we've had some crazy times, even at 2 players, but especially at 4 players. You dump in
especially at
12
4.
Keshis, and 4 or 5 maybe get stuck in there. Or maybe some from the last round come out
Yep.
and some new ones get stuck. Or the one that got stuck 3 rounds ago is still in there. Why hasn't it come out? It's crazy. And then you're drafting and you're like, okay, who's going to take what? And you have to assign your assistants to your player board when you reveal your Keshi. So you're firing off very specific parts of your player board. And you really want to get the Keshi for that spot if you can. But if you can't, you can always just get more Keshi. So you're constantly just building more and more Keshi on these different like little areas of your board, making them more and more powerful throughout the game. And I promise, if we play again soon, I'm going to try to get away from the river strategy.
Yeah, I
as
don't
much
believe
as
it. I
possible.
don't believe
I was just waiting to
James
see if you could say
River.
Keshi a few more times.
Keshi. No, it's such a fun game, and some of you know this. Just got our copy this morning.
I didn't know that. See, I didn't even know it was out, or else I might have like been making a few calls because I did like.
Start making your calls.
Well, I did like what I played with that prototype, but I really like. I'm dying to play it again and like get to see what the final copy looks like.
Yeah, I wanna. I opened the box just before we started recording, and then I had to put it away. So there's a lot of punching we have ahead of us,
sure.
punching cardboard.
Glad
but
to
yeah,
do it.
Marrakesh is my number 1 of the year.
Nice.
My number 1 of the year is one that I know is not on any of your lists. To Jeremy Stallone has
You've
one
already
left,
heard
but
our
yes,
lists.
that is Turing Machine.
Oh, of
You
course.
did love that one.
I knew this ahead of time that it would be there.
I know. Turing Machine is like a strictly deduction game. It's like logic puzzles to the max. What you're doing is you are trying to figure out a 3-digit code, and you have different clues around the board to try to get there. And each time you can put a specific code against each clue, and it'll tell you if it's positive or negative, right? Like, so did you get the right thing or the wrong thing based on what that clue is? It's strictly logic puzzles. I love it so much because you can play it so many different ways. So I played this game a ton solo. This was my like big solo game for the year was Turing Machine over
That's
and over
no
again.
surprise.
I played it cooperatively with my partner and with other people, and that was a lot of fun. I really enjoy. He's a big logic person too, so I really enjoyed doing that puzzle together. And then I played it competitively, and competitively is my least favorite mode, but still I would rather play it competitively than other games, right? Because I just love the puzzle of it. I loved getting to try to figure out what's going on, who can do it fastest, can you do it in the least amount of clues or information and still get the right code.
Yeah.
This
love
is
this game.
Emily's jam.
Sounds like
100%. Like even if you think, oh, I'll play it with Emily cooperatively, don't think that's going to make you feel any better about your skill set, because there's oftentimes, and this is not Emily's fault, this is completely my fault. We'd be playing cooperatively. I still felt as lost as ever, and I felt like Emily was about to just go over to me and tap my head and go,
It's okay,
very good,
David.
David.
It's
Here's
okay."
what we're doing. I mean, it is a logic game, and this is no joke of a game.
No.
This is not like, oh, get your entire family to
This
the
is not
table
Break
and
the
play
Cube.
this. No,
Break
no.
the Cube is the exact opposite
That's
of
a
Turing Machine.
Good contrast for
Yeah.
sure. Start with Break the Cube, cross your fingers and hope you'll get them to play Turing Machine.
That's what cooperative mode is for.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Perhaps. It's a cooperative mode is Emily's chance to teach you how to do this effectively.
It's so much fun, though. Ugh, I
Yeah.
love Turing Machine.
So,
number 1 game of the year. You ready?
Yeah?
Wormholes. Okay, by AEG.
you love Worm. Jeremy's not a fan.
No,
F5
it is most
specifically.
definitely a Revive. Revive was a game I was really, really waiting for. It was my most anticipated game going into Essen. I like this team of designers. Every time they come out with a game, they produce some of the things that I love, and it's really just about pleasing turns and easy choices and pleasing turns. And it starts with those cards. I love multi-use cards. I just love that.
Oh, yeah, we didn't even talk about that yet.
So it's like, I love that you can put cards in for certain ways and make these things trigger off. It makes you feel really smart when you get those combos going off. It makes you feel really smart on how you unlock your board, and you start to get these things going back and forth, pouncing on opportunities from other people. So they open up something, and it's like, ooh, you opened up a lot of things for me, and also just the factions. Of course, we talked about that before, the character boards, them being different and having your own powers. And gosh, are they cool? I mean, man, are they cool? Like once you find like you're like, wait, they can do this with the forest, or they can travel faster, or just that right there is like, I can't wait till they expand this game, because I just want more of the boards. But I know just because of the team that is behind this, they have something bigger planned, right? I just feel like they do. There's a lot of that campaign deck that you can just throw in right away. It makes the game even more exciting to play, but I just know this design team has so much more in mind for this project.
That's cool.
And I cannot wait,
I can't wait
for
either.
what
Oh,
they do with
yeah,
this game.
I can't wait.
It is a fantastic Euro game.
I can wait.
It's
to
just
be
a
clear.
fantastic
Emily played. We're gonna convert Emily over.
Yeah,
to
they're
this
trying to
because
get me to play it again.
She played it that night, and that I had a horrible experience. She had
My
less of a
experience
horrible.
wasn't that
No,
horrible.
it
No, but
wasn't.
also, when you think about reviving all the games that it's like, Emily doesn't like any of those games either.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's the
So-
map thing in the
Yeah, it's
middle.
the map
that is
thing.
Because there's the
big.
map, there's a lot of
There's
placing
no
on the map.
deduction. What can you do?
It's not Turing machine.
There's no-
What can we say? It's not Turing
There's no
machine.
real
So-
deduction. So yeah, you're right.
So-
Maybe if we added some code breaking into Revive,
Yeah,
that's
let's
the
do it.
expansion.
Maybe that's the expansion.
the
Hey,
one Emily would
before we
get.
go, let's take a look at the list.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I nailed mine. I had Massive Darkness 2, Oros, and
I'll put mine away.
Paint the Roses. And actually, I had 4. Resurgence was on no one else's list.
Oh, so
Okay.
you're wrong. You
So I
put
have-
it away.
I was wrong.
I
I
was
said
also
exactly
wrong.
3. Were you wrong?
Yeah, because I had 7 unique.
I had 6.
You had more?
I had more.
Yeah, I had 6.
I had 4. So I said 3 or 4, and I ended up with 4.
Oh, you had 4?
Nobody said Marvel Dice Throne.
Nope.
I'm so surprised nobody said Cat in the Box, because
No.
I only
That game is
Oh,
so-
you
I'm
thought
surprised-
that you didn't think that was going to be a
I
unique?
thought you would put Cat in the Box.
Yeah.
That's why
No,
I said 3 or 4.
I went with Scout in that category.
I had Guild of Merchant Explorers, and then Rear Window, which Rear Window I
Oh,
knew.
Rear Window
Yeah.
was a lock.
I knew that was a lock for
I was
only me.
surprised you thought Dead Reckoning might be a unique.
Well, because I thought you had it on your list last year because you'd gotten to play it
Oh
so
no!
early.
I've
I
been
couldn't
patiently
remember.
waiting
Yeah.
all this time to
I
get.
knew
it
that
on
was
there.
going to be on
What
there.
about you?
Well, I had 6.
What
So-
were the 4 that you had that overlapped?
Well, he put on Heat
Revive.
last. You
Yeah.
put on Heat
Yeah,
last.
yeah.
So it was the thing. You put on Heat last. Then you both said you didn't have Weather Machine. So I was like, oh wait, no, I have 7. So I have Weather Machine, Guards of Atlantis, Foundations of Rome, Carnegie,
Yeah.
Beer and Bread, Trekking Through History.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
quite a unique list.
Big.
Though almost all of those games were on my consideration
Yeah.
list. So Carnegie
They're
also
all
was so
solid
close.
games. They're so also solid games.
I don't think mine were on your consideration.
No,
list.
I don't-
So my 7
they
were
were not.
Turing Machine, Decorum, Woodcraft, Wayfarers, Wild Style, Break the Cube, and Sky Mine.
That's not true. Woodcraft and Wayfarers were both on my consideration.
I was
Okay,
this
2 of
close to
them.
having Wild Style on my list.
Yeah,
I'm just
you were
kidding.
so close.
I haven't played it.
Now that you talked about it, I stayed
gonna
away
have
from
to
it because
try
of the
it.
real time, but I'm glad they would try it.
So
Yes.
I think just to give you an idea, as you can tell, like we do like some of the same games, but we're definitely all different types of gamers.
Yeah.
I hope that when you watch our channel, you notice that there's definitely a lot of range within our coverage now, and also you're just seeing different types of like opinions about games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So hopefully you stick around in 2023 and see some more of the things that we have to say about games, because I was like excited. That's why I don't like sharing my stuff, because I really want to know what everybody likes.
He loves
you
the
know?
surprise.
I do
The
like
reveal.
surprise. We did it with our top 50. I got so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, like, oh, like it was so many wow moments that I like to keep it that way. But now that I think of this, even as a viewer, I'm like, you know what? We have a wide range of games that we
Yeah,
like.
we
Yeah,
really do. That was
yeah.
a good list.
And a lot of good games this year. Like, that's what makes
There's
it
a
possible,
lot of good
right?
games.
I'd love to analyze. We should analyze our list and see, what
Well, that's Emily's
Let's do it.
that's Emily's
jam.
thing. So maybe we'll come back
Reduction
and chit-chat and
games
talk
and
about it.
statistics. That's her 2 things. I'll take it a step further, Jeremy. I'll say if you like the variety, stay tuned in 2023 and invite 20 to 25 of your closest friends to do the same.
Yes. There you go.
Because the more the merrier.
Why
here at
stop
Fantasy
there?
Table.
Let's
yeah.
tell everyone you know to
Everybody.
subscribe.
Everybody.
That's your Christmas gift is a subscription to Man vs. Maple.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that is our top 10 for 2022. I dare to look at even the audio equipment back here to see how long this has been. But if you have any questions about any of the games we played, if you have some thoughts, which I'm sure you do,
Yeah.
about our top 10, if you want to share your top 10,
Tell us your top 10.
Yeah, put it in the comments. Put it in the
down in the
comments, yeah.
comments
Put it in the
below.
comments.
And of course, until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.